Welcome back to the Hunt Fish Live podcast. I'm Dan, your host, and this week is going to be a good one. I'm going to talk a little bit about the pre-rut and about some crazy action that happened this past weekend down in Indiana in the deer woods, as well as one of my new favorite things that I started last year about hunting in general. Let's get into it. Well, I arrived at the camp Friday afternoon with enough time to get out for an evening sit down in northwest Indiana. I headed back to a stand that I haven't hunted much. I think I've only hunted it one or two other times since I've been hunting down there. It's on the back, the back chunk of our property. It's currently standing corn that the deer have been just living in. It's pretty much the only corn on the block, definitely on that side of the block. And we've been getting trail camera pictures of bucks fighting, sparring in the evenings and mornings, as well as pictures of does, and pretty much just about anything you could want in the deer woods. I got up in there about 4:30 or so. It doesn't get dark till 7:30 down there. So, got up, hung out for a while. The sun was beating on me because the stand faces south, and it's basically on the edge of an open cornfield. I didn't really have any action until the sun started to go down. I saw a spike coming through the corn, and he might as well have been a freight train. I thought he was huge, but I ended up seeing him. He got into some thinner, shorter corn that the deer have eaten, and I was disappointed, to say the least. He ended up staying in the corn and moved. Let's see, he probably hung out about 100 yards to my right, so the west, and disappeared for a while. Shortly after that, there was a doe that came out of the corn, probably 100 yards in the same area where he stopped at, and she just went straight into the woods behind me, didn't walk in front on their trails that go past me. So I figured, by seeing that, I figured that's what the deer were going to do, and sure enough, there's another spike that came out from the corn and did the same thing, and this one that I saw earlier did the exact same thing. So I waited till shooting light was gone, and packed up and got out of there. Saturday morning, I sat in my tree stand, or the stand that they call mine, and I didn't see anything that morning, which kind of sucked. It was cold. I thought for sure that the deer would be moving, but they weren't. Saturday afternoon is when it gets fun. I walked out to our buddy Jeff's stand because he has been having a ton of deer lately on his trail camera that's out there, and it's 30 yards from his stand. So I figured might as well give it a shot. My buddy Corey went out with me, and he ended up sitting on the ground in our makeshift ground blind made of fence posts, and he brought his snort wheeze call and his rattling antlers. He's like, I'm going to try to get one to come out of the woods, maybe bring him in a shot, maybe bring one past you. I was like, that's cool. That sounds like a great idea. So that's what we did. We didn't have any action until probably about 7 as well. He saw a buck chasing a doe in the back corner of the field. They disappeared into the woods and then ended up popping out like 150, 200 yards from him. And he grabbed his call and snort wheezed at the buck. And they both came. Well, she was already kind of coming his direction, and he just made a beeline right for Core. And he said it was pretty intense. The deer got 40 yards, 50 yards from him, and ended up the doe ended up running towards me. So Corey was about 300 yards, 400 yards from me. And it's like 20 after 7 now. And shooting light is like 27, 727, 728, something like that. And they ended up making their way towards me. He texts me, sends me a text, big buck, 60 yards from you. And I'm like, all right. He goes, shoot it if you can. And I couldn't see it. All I saw was a doe standing in the field, and she was about 90 away. And all of a sudden, he must have been blocked by a tree branch or something, and he moved, and I saw him. I could tell he was a big body, but it was too dark already, and I couldn't see his antlers. So I didn't know how big he was, and I could tell that it was a buck. And so they ended up running from my left to the right, and she stopped out in front of me about 100 yards, and he kind of was following her, but not running after her, just kind of following. And she ended up taking off running straight away from me, and he went to where she was standing and stuck his nose to the ground and started grunting, and then started chasing her a little bit. Well, they ended up doing a circle and coming back in front of me. The doe was about 30 yards in front of me, perfectly broadside, but it was dark. It was pretty dark already. And he ended up, I think the closest he got was 60. And she ended up walking off and going by Corey. And the buck ended up going straight away from me. And I don't know if he went down into this ditch that he was by, or if he crossed or what, but we never seen him. So the doe ended up going into wetlands, and we ended our hunt for the night. Well, while all this was happening, we both lost cell signal, so we couldn't text each other, and so it was kind of a cluster, but it was a good time. It was fun walking back to the camp with Corey and talking about it and how it all went down. So it was a good night for us, for sure. I just needed 8 more minutes of daylight, and I probably would have killed that buck. Sunday morning came around. Corey and I went and hunted the north side of the farm. He went back into the woods a little bit, and I stayed on the edge in a tree stand that I don't hunt much either. And right away, sunrise was at 8:15 on Sunday, I think, and shooting time was 7:45. So it's about 7:35, and here come these deer. I'm all settled in, got the camera going, and I'm ready. And these deer, I see some deer coming through the field, and they end up 30 yards in front of me. One of them looks like a nice buck, but I can't see his antlers. It's too dark. He stood there for a couple minutes, giving me the perfect broadside shot, but I could not see my sights, and I had zero camera light. And so I had to pass him. I didn't want to, but there was no way that I could safely shoot him. The does that were with him, they were behind him. They ended up all passing me from right to left, and then the does ended up coming back at some point for some reason, and made their way into the woods past me, probably 300 yards or so. They were running through the field, so I don't know what was going on. Corey ended up seeing he had a doe come up to him and smelled his tree stand ladder for 5 minutes, and the thing never looked up, and he was like, what is going on? It didn't even care that he was there. She was just checking out the scent on that one step. But it was wild. I've had that happen before with a small 4-point buck when I hunted the apple orchard I talked about. It's always interesting to try to think about, what are they thinking? And am I going to get busted? And usually with those young ones, you don't. So that was our hunt. Our buddy Steve shot at one. On Sunday morning, we ended up tracking it for 800 yards or so. And we lost blood after we determined that it was actually like a brisket shot. All the blood was clear and watery, so definitely muscle blood, and there was fat, so it was moving pretty good. It wasn't stumbling or anything, so we didn't pursue it. We don't think it was a fatal shot. So better luck next time. It was fun tracking though. It's always a good time to hone your skills on finding blood in the grass. Not hunting down there this weekend. Our rutcation starts next week. I'm heading down Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, basically for the whole weekend. It's my favorite trip of the year. Like, all the guys are going to be there, and we're going to enjoy some amazing deer hunting, some amazing food, and great conversation. If you ever have a chance to get into a solid deer camp like that with your buddies, just go. Do whatever you have to do to go. It's a fun time. Some of my favorite hunting memories when I was younger was at deer camp with my uncles and grandpa, and my dad doesn't hunt and my brothers don't hunt, so I can't have that enjoyment with them. So I have a solid group of friends that are like family to me, and that's how we spend our fall. I don't see them much during the summer except for Corey, but these few months of deer season make all that worth it. This week coming up is some of my favorite days to hunt deer of the entire year, other than rutcation and being with the guys during the Indiana rut, which is crazy. We got the days leading up to Halloween. The temperature and the weather is changing. It's getting colder, and the weather is starting to turn. This is the time to be in a tree if you're a bow hunter. Bucks are on the move, and if they aren't, it's pretty likely because temperatures are too high and the weather is stagnant. You want that wind changing direction and the cooler temps, and it'll just turn everything on fire. For those that have kept tabs on a specific, like if you have a buck that you've been watching all year, now's the time to strike. It won't be long before he starts covering every inch of their home range and even venturing outside of it to look for that hot doe and breed. If you have a deer pegged and the conditions are right to do so, move in. You don't want to miss it. This might be your last chance to kill that big buck before your neighbor does. In most places, still, the bucks haven't ventured far from their home ranges yet, and the likelihood of seeing them in daylight near their core areas are very high. You just have to be in the right spot at the right time to intercept him. And don't be afraid to implement tactics like decoying, calling, and rattling. I never used to be one to rattle and do a lot of calling, but over the past few years, I've seen my buddies make it work, and now I'm a fan. I don't leave camp or my truck without some sort of call, whether it's a bleat can, a buck grunt tube, a snort wheeze call, or my rattling antlers. It's just, you can't pass up this opportunity this time of year. Kill that big Halloween buck this year, guys. That being said, now that all-day set season is approaching, the rut is almost here. What snacks are you taking into the woods with you? Are you a Debbie Cake guy, or do you take a sandwich? Let me know. Leave a comment, and let's see what everyone brings. I'm typically a granola bar and some jerky, maybe an apple. I don't like to take too much just because it's all weight in the backpack. I like to take enough to keep me energized and to keep me feeling full until I get back to camp for dinner. I've been known to take peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They're good everywhere. That's one of my favorites. Also, like a Cliff Bar and an apple or granola bar or something like that. Just something to keep my taste buds happy and my mind focused. Some of my buddies bring out blocks of cheese and packs of deli meat to eat while they're on their all-day sits. They bring coffee, they bring pop, they bring energy drinks. I actually have one buddy who brings his headphones and listens to podcasts and music while he's sitting in those midday boring hours, so to speak, just to keep his mind going and waste a little time while he's watching for deer. Switching gears. Last year, I started something that I've always wanted to do. I decided to start a hunting log. I got a line composition book, so the line paper with like the harder cover on it, and I decided to keep track of all my hunts, whether they're good or bad, if I saw a deer, if I didn't see deer, and just everything about it, who I was hunting with, where I was hunting, the weather, in hopes of kind of tracking deer movement to weather and just the time of year and stands and stuff that I've been hunting. So last year I logged all my deer hunts, which was really cool because now I can look back on them. I was initially just going to start, I was just going to do it with deer hunting, but I decided to include turkey hunting in there as well. So just for something a little different to keep my mind going and thinking about deer hunting and making that next move. So this year I have started it. I log, let's see. This fall I got right back into it. I write a log for every sit. So I think I've sat let's see. I've had 12 sits this year, and so I have 12 entries into the logbook. It always includes the date, if it was a morning or evening sit, location, where I'm hunting, or the property that I'm hunting, and then the stand location that I'm hunting, as well as a little bit about the weather. Usually just temperature and wind, and if it was raining. Just stuff to look back on. Then it started as a brief synopsis of each hunt, but it has kind of turned into something a little more. Last year when I started it, they only ended up being about a half a page, and now I'm getting a page and a half. So it's just about elaborating a little more elaboration and getting used to writing down my thoughts about the deer hunt. But it's kind of cool. So I will be able to look back on all these hunts and just read the experiences that I had in the tree and who I was with and everything like that. So if you guys haven't done it, I suggest it. It's a great way to reminisce and remember your hunts and just kind of get in writing, which is never a bad thing. My ultimate goal is to have my daughter and grandkids, hopefully future grandkids, read about what I did and how big of a putz I can be sometimes. Yeah, looking forward to the future for that and filling these books up. The one that I have now is about half full, so hopefully we can add some more stories to it. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you for listening to the Hunt, Fish, Live podcast. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite deer stand snack during those all-day sits. Good luck this weekend. Get out there. It's Halloween. Good luck.